Hello and welcome to Exploring Christianity, a Journey of Faith. In this video, we'll complete the overview of the storyline of the Old Testament that we began last time. In part 1, we started with creation and followed the story through Moses, the 40 years in the desert, and up to the point where the Israelites had taken over the promised land, ruled by God with the support of God's judges. We'll pick things up from there and continue to explore humanity's performance. Life in the promised land was pretty good. There were a few challenges from time to time, but overall the Israelites were flourishing and they were experiencing significant growth. Unfortunately, in a surprise move, a time came when the Israelites told God that they wanted God to step down as CEO, though God could retain God's position on the board. Once again, humanity was sure that we knew better than God and wanted to go the way that seemed good to us instead of listening to God. God warned them of the likely consequences of this decision, but graciously stepped back when they could not be dissuaded. The new CEO, King Saul, was not a good leader and caused many issues in his tenure. God then personally selected the next CEO, King David, to replace Saul. David was a man after God's own heart, and things improved and ran well for a while. In his free time, David was also quite an accomplished musician, writing many of the Psalms. After a number of successful years, however, David was involved in a sex scandal from which he never fully recovered. The next CEO was David's son Solomon. Solomon was a leader of great wisdom for which he credited God. Solomon was also an accomplished author whose works may include a self-improvement book called Proverbs, a book on maintaining a strong marriage called The Song of Songs, and a book of reflections entitled Ecclesiastes. Solomon's key accomplishments included building a temple for God in Jerusalem. Unfortunately, at the end of Solomon's tenure, he too was lured by some of his 700-plus wives to violate his contract with God, and humanity took another downward turn. After Solomon stepped down, a serious schism developed among the Israelites over who their next leader should be. This became so serious that the Israelites actually split from each other, with the majority of the groups or tribes retaining the Israel brand, and a small group rebranding themselves under the moniker of Judah, who were based in Jerusalem. Sadly, as we see here, the Israel leaders were consistently evil and self-serving. Ahab and his wife Jezebel are thought by some to be the worst of the lot. While the leadership of Judah was much better, they too had times of bad leaders, who also broke from the tenets established by God. God tried to help them back on the right path by sending many of the king's guides, called prophets, noted on our chart with asterisks, but the leaders and the people would not listen to them. When it became clear that Israel simply would not see the error of their ways, God finally had the Assyrians put them completely out of business, and they were never to be heard from again. This is why they are sometimes called the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Judah, the name of the remaining tribes of the original Israelites, continued onward for a while longer, but ultimately they too fell under a string of bad leadership. Eventually, God sent in the Babylonians to put them out of business too. The Jerusalem enterprise fell. God's temple in Jerusalem was destroyed in the process. Those who survived the takeover were now controlled by the Babylonians. But all hope was not lost for Judah. After the Babylonians themselves were taken over by Persia, there was a turn for the better, and King Cyrus allowed Judah's exiles to begin rebuilding the temple. Though this work was later stopped for a time, it finally resumed, and the people of Judah were able to return to their home office in Jerusalem. Though still ruled by others, they were once again able to take on the original mission that God had tasked them with, to demonstrate to the rest of humanity how to live in relationship with God. As the Old Testament draws to a close, the prophet Nehemiah restores to them God's laws. And that's where the Old Testament ends. The story is picked up more than 400 years later in the New Testament, when a man was born to a virgin who was from the line of Judah. But that's a story for another day. What stood out to you in this long history of rebellion and restoration?